Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
What's up, everyone? Coming back of a hot weekend in Jersey. Fox 25 went down and...
Long Island.
Oh, Long Island,
New
my
York,
bad.
the whole time.
I don't know any of that. I'm initially a West Coaster, so I'm getting used to all of it. But fun crowd. I really liked it. It was a great weekend. There was definitely a lot of good fights. It surprised me. I thought we both said this might not be a overwhelming card, but guess what? Chito Vera made it a little bit exciting starting off the night.
Cheeto. Love Cheeto.
He was our Leslie Smith pick of the week, I would say. He was an underdog.
Wasn't Leslie Smith on this card?
No, that was a couple cards ago.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that was last weekend. That was the first fight of
That
the
was
night
last weekend.
Yeah,
exactly. That was last weekend. Yeah.
We've definitely
with 120 points. Sorry, I can't look.
just so you know. It was. Was there any? What was some of the highlights? We don't have to go through the entire card. We definitely got fun stuff coming up this weekend and a lot. But
I can't even think about it. All I can think about is Weidman, Gastelum. That's it.
Right.
That's all I can think about on the whole entire card. And I don't want to say it wasn't an exciting fight night, but I feel like this next card coming up it just overshadows it in my emotions. I can't let my emotions go because how excited I am for 214.
So I would say that this was actually I know for a fact this was the lowest rated Fox card in history so far.
Yeah.
It got really bad numbers. I felt like it lived up to way more than its expectation, and that's really unfortunate. I do see what you're saying where it's underwhelming or compared to the weekend that's coming up. I feel like the fight that's coming up is kind of underwhelming. I don't think I'm all of a sudden getting the feeling that it's not that Mac
214?
May. The promotion and everything else, best promotion they've had for it, but these days leading up, I feel like Mac May took a lot of steam off of that. I don't know why.
I have no steam for Mac May.
I agree with that as well.
I have zero. I'm so bored with it now.
What might be happening is that, well, as we're saying, we don't know which fighter fought this last weekend. I'm getting a little fatigued. It's been weekend after weekend after weekend, plus Tuesday shows, which is going on.
And is it fatigued because of the amount of UFC content we have now? The quality of the UFC content isn't as good as it used to be?
I would say that it is more the amount. There's so much. Not only is there UFC, then there's these other promotions, but the UFC is also expanding in so many other avenues, and these cards are having fights that are changing.
And the Bellator cards, the last few have been great.
Agreed.
The Invicta cards have been noteworthy, where
also
people have been talking about them.
If you don't have Fight Pass by now, guys, come on, get with it.
You're talking about the Tuesday night fights.
Yeah.
We have that as well. Then we have Mac May.
Right.
Then we actually have good boxing going on.
Real Triple G Canelo, you can't forget. That's a beautiful fight in itself.
And we just talked about all that stuff without talking about 214 or 215, which are monsters.
Are monsters. And then 214 card of the year. Real quick, I just want to get to the post-fight card. The heavyweight fight between Timothy Johnson versus Albini, the 26-year-old kid who just fought in the UFC.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming. I thought that Timothy Johnson size, but that's striking on babyface, and that he looks like a 19-year-old young man. That is just.
What about Sherman?
Sherman looked good.
The Vanilla Gorilla.
He definitely did good. He did look for a heavyweight. You can see that transition of just being big into now having skill.
His camp style to me looked very AKA. To me, it wasn't ground heavy like that, but just plain
Winklejohn.
Winklejohn.
Yeah,
he is Winklejohn.
He's training with John Jones.
I know you were totally. It all makes sense watching his style. Yep. I didn't mean an AKA at all. It's just thinking about 214 again.
Right.
His style is so reminiscent of Holly Holmes, John Jones, all the guys at Wink, that it's really a points game. It's how Floyd Mayweather box. They see they are winning the rounds with the least amount of damage possible is the hopes.
Right.
You see it on the good end of John Jones, the bad end Holly Holmes.
Smart.
But that's how I noticed Sherman staying on the outside with a bunch of the leg kicks. And for him, being a heavyweight, I've just never seen that style before. for such a young guy. Usually we see the older guys tend to stay on the outside.
It was reminiscent of that Rashad Coulter fight, and he just looked even better. And being at that camp with those type of size bodies, Sherman is definitely a guy to keep putting money on in the division. With Albini knocking out Johnson, what I found really endearing was the post-fight presser. Did you happen to catch him after when he found out? There's live tape going around on YouTube. I think it was MMA Fighting, where the promoter came up and said, "Here you go. You won fight of the night, or knockout of the night." And he was just like, "Are you kidding me?" And they're like, "Don't start crying." And he's like, "No, this is amazing. Thank you guys so much. This is amazing." And then he begins to tell a story of how he had never had more than $100 in his wallet ever in his life. His 2-year-old daughter has only played with water bottles and detergent buckets and not toys because he hasn't been able to afford it. And actually his $600 per diem flight that UFC gave him was the most money and the biggest check he's ever gotten in his life. So $50K all of a sudden, life-changing.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good story.
Isn't it? So I really was like, wow, this is just something that... And he's a young man at 26 years old in the heavyweight division. He's going to grow into that body. I can't wait to see him go because I liked his striking ability. I thought Johnson's a big dude, and Johnson's beat much higher caliber than Albini has. And good takedown defense and wicked strikes. I can't wait to see that guy. Any more of this post other than
I feel like there were some other fights on here.
Oh, yeah, there were some good ones. There was...
Yeah, I don't have any of my technology in front of me.
The Rivera... Alameda fight turned into a decision. That was a good... I thought Alameda, it was a 28 round, or it was 28-30 round. At that first or second round, I can't remember. I feel like Rivera had Alameda all sorts of hurt. Anders TKO, that was brutal against Natal. Like we were saying, definitely stay away from Natal.
Stay away.
Had him all day.
And Anders was cheap. He was definitely a good buy on DraftKings.
Great buy. And one of your picks that came in for you, great pick, Zaleski, Dos Santos, Zozoikis, whatever that was, against Good. Good looked like a monster post weigh-in, and Zaleski came out swinging, did not give a damn, or Dos, whatever.
It wasn't even an educated pick. I just did not like the amount of time it was before Good was in the ring last.
Yeah.
Since Good was in the ring last. I did not like it at all.
So the big upset that I felt like really caught me by surprise was the Oliveira LaFleur. Oliveira's striking was just
I wish
so
I would have just
on point.
stayed with Cowboy. I changed it, and I ended up cashing on a few DraftKings cards, but I would have danced the night away had I not had LaFleur on anything.
Oh, I was playing LaFleur a lot, and I was boasting a lot for LaFleur, but guess what? Those takedowns didn't come at all. That Oliveira.
We like LaFleur's camp.
Yeah, exactly. And I like LaFleur. I still think LaFleur can beat a lot of other guys. It's just Oliveira is powerful and getting his game together where if he can keep a fight standing, he can beat a lot of guys striking. And he has game-changing power.
And the thing that he has a nasty ground game.
Oh, yeah, he's easy. It was just getting him to the ground is the biggest issue. And LaFleur, if LaFleur can't get Oliveira down from now on,
I feel like Cowboy stole our Cowboy's mojo.
Moniker, kind of.
He stole the whole thing. Like, if it was a crystal inside his chest, he took it, and he's been running with it since.
He initially came in saying that he was a Brazilian cowboy, but I don't know who's more of a cowboy. Donald Cerrone, who I don't know if he's ever ridden bulls, but I know he does bikes, jet skis, and he jumps out of planes. Anything you can think of, Donald Cerrone does but bull riding. And Brazilian cowboy actually was a bull rider in Brazil before he became a fighter. Apparently, people saw him fighting, or his coach saw him fighting in the streets regularly, and he was like, "You'd be good at this." And he was a local bull rider who would get in fights.
Then his name should be Bull Rider. Because isn't a cowboy just somebody who fucking wrangles cows and rides across the plain on a horse?
Well, now not on a horse anymore. They all use ATVs.
I know. That's actually when you said
More
riding,
Cerrone.
I thought Cerrone ATV.
Yeah.
I just pictured him on an
Dirt bike
ATV
guy.
and wrangling cows. Like I could picture him doing it. So I don't know. Both of them can wear it as far as I'm concerned. That's the only one I'm not mad at. But both guys are legit.
Legit though, and it's unique how they both have that same live by the sword, die by the sword mentality in that ring, and it works out for them in the long
Both
haul.
exciting to watch. Both guys I'm stoked to see on any card.
Right.
Yeah.
One quick thing with the main event.
You better be careful if you pick Cowboy. I'm just saying, if you're a future person listening to this that may go into MMA, you better be very careful. You got to live up to the heavy standards.
Yeah, to live up to that name. With the main event, everyone kept talking about it, and I really noticed it after, and I felt more comfortable picking Gastelum, was the size that Chris Weidman had it shrunken. I mean, if you put side-by-side photos, he has definitely looked like he lost a good amount of muscle mass, and he has even been on tape saying a few times, like, my camp's so good, my weight's so good, I could do 170, and he looks like he's starting to get a 170 frame. He looked good.
The weight
and lean.
cuts were getting too hard on him. So maybe
Did he
he's
change
living his lifestyle.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Living
And
a
I think
leaner
he's
lifestyle, walking around closer to his weight that he's supposed to be.
I feel like that's what he was kind of saying as well. And a lot of fighters, that's been a big change.
How do you feel about Chris Weidman? I know he beat Kelvin.
He almost got beat. That first round was saved by the bell.
Yeah.
That was saved by the bell,
Yeah.
Kelvin.
That's why the round to me was a 9-9.
Yeah.
Going into it. Like, I was trying to give it, I think it was Chris Weidman up until that point, but once the knockdown happens from the punch
He takes
like
the round
that,
automatically.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or at
it's
least
10-9.
levels it 9-9, 10-9.
I think it would go for Kelvin immediately. It ended up being... It was the ground game. Kelvin lets his back... He always lets his back get taken, and... He's had the best on it, other of the best on his back.
He's just not tall enough to get the leverage against
He's
somebody
saying
like
he's going to
Weidman.
170 again.
I'm okay with it if he does something like Chris Weidman has just done and lean out. He has to live a lifestyle like that. Kelvin at 170, and his body looks like he can go to 170. Kelvin at 170 is a dangerous motherfucker.
Like we were saying on the last podcast, Kelvin is one of those guys that doesn't, and this is via Chael Sonnen, that he has trained with him, and he was on the show. He was actually the coach and all that stuff, and he won the show. But he's like, Kelvin never is the hardest worker in the room, never has been, never's going to be. He'll show up every day, but he's not going to give it all. But when that cage closes, he always finds a way to win. And
Chael says that about so many people. He says it about Dan Henderson. He
which
says
is
it
true.
about...
But I've heard
I
that
know,
from
but I
Randy Couture
just
as well.
yeah, but I just feel like Chael just says that about so many people. But doesn't Chael call himself the hardest working man? So if you call yourself the hardest working, everybody is going to pale in comparison.
Right.
to you.
He's also just has his opinion that way.
Did we already talk about PVC training with Chael?
I don't know if we necessarily hit on that too much.
I think that's kind of great for her.
It wouldn't hurt. Oh, I did. Is she going to be in the Westland Hills, though? She's got to be up in Portland.
She
if she's
is at
training
his
up there.
gym. She's in
Yeah.
up in Oregon, some part
in
of
Portland.
yeah.
It's in the Southeast District. It's in those warehouses. They have a
So
specific
yeah, no more alpha male. Up with Chael. Alpha Chael.
So
I think it's smart for her too, because the way he rolls, just all the mistakes he's made,
Right.
he won't let her make him. I think on the business end, by the type of, she's never going to be the best fighter in the world, but she can get name recognition enough to make a career off this. And what better friggin' guy to get that info from than Chael Sonnen? Anyways, back to Kelvin. If we want to talk about Kelvin Weidman.
no, either way, fun finish for him. Good for Weidman. He needed that. That was pretty.
He needed it.
Needed it, and
He
it was
needed
not
it.
easy win for him. He gritted
What
it
do
out.
you think about him and Bisping talking shit on Twitter?
I think Bisping needs to shut up about all of it, because he needs to just have one fight and then worry about everyone else. The fact that he's picking other fights, or other people are picking fights with him, because he did get called out. Again, I love Bisping's mentality where he's like, I will fight you all, but they don't want to fight him because he has a belt. They don't want to fight him because he's Bisping. They're like, oh no, screw that. If he was number 10, they'd be like, I don't want to fight that guy.
And if you look, he's just, to me, he started talking shit to Chris Weidman only because, and look at Chris Weidman, man. He's, what a fall from grace. He was like on a pay-per-views to the lowest rated Fox night.
If there's
Good
a lot of different
grief.
dynamics to this entire card, and
To me, their Fox cards are wasted. Unless they have to put the hot young fighters on the Fox cards.
what they did with this Fox card, which I thought was really smart, is they put 10 of the fighters 10 of the bouts had local or guys that were from the area, and usually it's like 6 or 7. So that was really good by them. I don't understand. I'm sticking to that. Fox ended up. It's been a lot of fights, and people. This is the fight that we even told people, hang out with your girlfriend for the first part. We even told people, like, we're like,
save it up for 214.
Save it, exactly. So it could be the 214 heat that people are like, I'm gonna give up this weekend to get the 214 weekend.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I know a couple dads that did that as well over the weekend.
I just think it's they need to save the Fox cards and put the hotties on. I know it sounds so trite and people get so mad at it, but you take your Paige Van Zants, your Karate Hotties, your Sage Northcutts, your Mickey Gulls, you put your young kids on it and let them, save your Holly Holm. She always fills your Fox card. People want to watch the girl who one time knocked out Ronda Rousey fight. That's her. So I just don't understand. I blame since what is it, WME, the management.
Right.
They don't get the fight fans. They understand the entertainment side. I get it.
Right.
They don't get fight fans. If we wanted to see WWE, we'd watch it. If we want to see, the Bellator, I wouldn't mind the Bellator walk-ins though.
I love all that entry stuff as well. That pageantry, the almost WWE, and there's a lot of people that are either love it or hate it. They're not in between. I'm kind of in between. There's stuff that I don't want from the WWE era, but there's stuff I want. Give me a Macho Man. Give me somebody dressed up in an Ultimate Warrior to get in that ring and to fight it in the cage. I would be a diehard fan.
Who's the
Jim
Hulk?
Miller?
No.
Jim Miller does Macho Man and does it on YouTube and stuff.
I see.
That's really good.
What's his face? He comes in green.
Gudalaba.
Yeah, like
Ian
that shit.
Gudalaba.
He's not even that great.
No,
the
but
fact that he
because
comes in the Hulk, he's great. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, he's
great,
tough.
but-
He's a tough fighter for sure.
Do you have Maymac burnout? I don't even I don't care.
The latest has been the basketball jersey thing. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, but it's not even the latest. He did that shit forever ago.
Right.
That's some old school head games.
It just shows because Mystic Mac tries to use as much as he can in every single fight, and he notoriously has picked people apart prior to their fights in the same manner. He always finds dirt on people and understands that the Nick Diaz flipping you off in the face, Donald Cerrone said it. I could beat Nick Diaz any day of the week, but when we fought and he was flipping me off in the ring, I wasn't thinking straight. That's the tactic. That's the whole point of it. And Mac is a master at that, and he does it subtly, which is next level. He doesn't have to get a gun and show it in your face. He'll brandish it over somewhere else.
Would you shit your pants if this is really just the question? Would you shit your pants if Mac knocked Mayweather out? Would you just shit your pants?
I mean, I might just...
How would you feel for him? Like, as an MMA fan, knowing deeper than just any other dipshit that's going to be watching.
I'd probably just convulse a little bit. And then
like,
wake up and just be
shit.
like, nobody can then talk shit on MMA. If our champs can do boxing and MMA, like there's
the other
no
thing that
ifs,
kind of
buts.
makes me irritated, and not to take away anything from McGregor, so don't send me a fucking email, not to take anything away from McGregor, but I keep hearing things like boxing's best versus MMA is best. I don't even think I put Conor in the top 10 of MMA.
I would agree. I think people are like...
I love him. I think he's great. I don't think he's in the list of best
him.
of all time yet. I don't think
Yeah,
he's in that list. I think he has to... And Habib, everyone, that's the fight.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are like, I need to see this fight. To me, beat Tony Ferguson. Like... Beat Tony fucking Ferguson. I don't even care about the Habib fight. To me, Habib needs to fight 10 other people.
What about
Khabib.
Ferg Mac? Give me another Mexican champ, baby. Give me another Mexican champ out there.
I love, but I even think McGregor thinks he can beat Khabib. That's why he would call him out over Tony Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm over. I can't even think about the boxing match. I can't even, like, right now I'm just, like, burnt out where I'm like, do I want to see this that bad?
Agreed.
I am more excited about Jones Cormier. I feel like I've been waiting for 4 years for this.
Agreed, but I almost feel like it's a Mayweather-Pacquiao thing where it's a fight that needed to happen within a year, within 6 months, the first time, not 4 years later, like you're saying. It's I think Cormier is just in a different spot. But we can start off the card. Where is this going to be at? Vegas?
Before we get into it, have you been doing anything else?
Oh. I actually have been watching Glow on
isn't
the
it great?
Netflix. That is an amazing show. Hilarious. Really interesting. It's based roughly off of the actual...
It's based on the real show, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, but the characters are amalgamations. Is that the word? Where
I
you
think
pull
so.
like a few different characters together to make one. I think they're that.
Right.
Don't
The-
tweet me that either.
It is really funny. There's also... What else have I gotten into lately?
Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling is a schlick show you can watch as a dude and get your girl to watch it with you. It has a weird way of... It's a chick show.
Yeah.
But because you're watching real shit and the real background of wrestling and that stuff, it's a dude show. There's like the business side of it. And then there's chicks of all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
So there's some hot girls, and the lead girls, the whole time you keep asking yourself, are they hot? I don't know if
Agreed.
they're
There
Maybe
is
they're hot.
times.
I don't know if they're hot. That's how most of the girls I feel on there.
I would
Maybe
agree.
they're... But you should watch the documentary too.
I need to. I've
You
heard
should
good
watch
things
the
about
documentary, and I think it just makes the show like you know exactly the time frame and what's going on. And the documentary is really good too. And it just came out. They must be like a hand in hand.
Oh,
somehow.
perfect. Well, definitely. I'm only a couple episodes in. Have you watched anything recently that
I
you can
have to
remember?
tell everyone, Wonder Woman is amazing.
Oh, I have not watched that because I don't know if I believe the hype or not.
I love it.
Really?
I love it. It's the origin stories put together so well. There's a cameo appearance from Robin Wright Penn, which if you watch House of Cards, she's like the hottest lady. Like she just carries herself in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a way.
Like Hillary
it's
Clinton?
so class. Oh yeah, yeah, that Hillary beefsteak.
That little dictator.
But Wonder Woman is really good. The origin story is good. You like fucking the character Wonder Woman. She should not have been in that Batman suit. They shouldn't have done that Batman Superman movie. They should have done the release of each of these characters for us to meet them, and then
That Batman Superman was one of the worst pieces of garbage I've seen in a long time. Sorry.
I'm looking forward to Spider-Man Homecoming, but Wonder Woman, awesome.
Off the charts. All right, I'm done. I'm gonna end up watching that this weekend.
Great feed on Cody. Has a little bit of some sort of Asian subtitle, but it's high def other than that, and I don't even care. I won't watch a cam. I won't watch a cam feed.
On Netflix, I
won't watch anything illegally. And silence.
The other thing I did catch on Netflix actually was Train to Busan. It's a zombie flick. It's not that scary. I don't know, zombie flicks haven't really scared me anymore. The story was good, all subtitles, but in Japan, I lived in Japan for a little bit. I thought it was a really good representation of their train system. It was really a interesting flick. I recommend that. And it really isn't as scary. You're like, oh, okay, a zombie. I've seen a million zombies and it's a big game of tag. Those movies are a big game of tag to me. All you
Like
see
you
is
just don't want to
shots.
get touched.
Exactly. Like, if you were to go out to any playground, you're going to see that from above. Put a drone up. You're going to see little kids. We used to call it sneer the something every once in a while.
That shows your age.
I
I think that's an East Coast thing too, but you play with a ball.
Exactly. But that's all these movies are, these zombie movies for me now. It's just a big shot of two people running, even the shows. GFT, I know you're caught up on it, of course.
Yes.
There's a whole podcast and other series. We need to get into GFT all that much. Definitely ready for the weekend's card.
GOT will move into UFC 214.
Jones versus Cormier. This is going to be in Las Vegas?
Yes, of course.
Because
Jones
I
versus
think
Cormier.
One of the
2.
Vegas, is it MGM or wherever it may be? This is definitely the rematch that should have happened a long time ago. Do it from the bottom
What
up.
was it, New York? No, wait, UFC 200.
Was the last meeting.
That's when it was supposed to be last. But they've had like 4 fallouts.
Exactly, because that's the biggest thing. The biggest narrative I've heard so far is just make it, because we had it fall out 3 days before the last time they fought, if you don't remember, because of them.
There's other fights on this card that if Jones Cormier falls out, I'll be okay
They
with
stacked
this card.
it for that reason, though. That's why.
No one trusts John Jones.
You know how Amanda Leon, you were making a really good case, and this is the exact reason you made that case, is I'll never put him on a headliner. If there's anybody who's not credible, it's John Jones.
Yeah.
John Jones will fall out before a goddamn fight.
Do you remember, though, not to even toot my own horn, but with Amanda, how long back with their first meeting that I said Amanda's not going to make weight?
Mm-hmm.
So their first meeting, standing there squaring off where she gave her the chin music, right. I said, there's no way. She was walking around heavier than me. There's no way a girl can cut that weight like that and get down to 135. I just knew it. Well, that's how I'm wondering, like DC, if there is no towel gate, he better be living a healthier lifestyle. I worry about it.
It's definitely going to change it. There is a new division opening up at 145 pounds where we're going to get an new... Very recently. Actually, did you hear about GDR? She just came out on the MMA Hour and was talking about her whole situation, which, you know how we feel about now. Not the Iron Lady. She was saying her hand was the reason, her and that Cyborg was cheating is why she wasn't willing to. But now she's saying, as of yesterday or Monday, she was saying that she's willing to take a fight with Renault and then get the surgery after that, which means that she would be willing to take the fight versus Cyborg the first time. So she was just creating excuses and saying she
fight Chris.
Yep, she just didn't want to get beat up. So she's moving down to 135, and Chris is facing Tanya Ringer in one of the co-main headlining events of the night. But to start it all off, we're gonna have Josh Berkman versus Drew Dober. We both have seen these guys. I feel like Drew Dober's on the way up and Josh Berkman's on the way down. Josh Berkman has been in many promotions, been at it for a very long time, really adjusted his game and done well, but he's on a 3-fight losing streak against caliber fighters. But Drew Dober is a young guy at 28 years old with a pretty good career, and a lot of it has already been in the UFC or top organizations. Drew Dober's also coming off of a loss to Aban Mercier via submission, but Mercier's submission game is definitely elite. Other than that, Drew Dober has 2 wins and a loss and a couple losses. There was also some weird controversial things in there. Berkman's a wrestler, so is Drew Dober, and Berkman's power is the last thing that he really has. His movement is really slowed down. His chin has finally started to go, which was his biggest attribute. And Drew Dober decision. I could even see a TKO round 3. I think Dober has as good of wrestling, better cardio, not as clean as a striker as Berkman, but I think he has a better chin. The savviness of Berkman could make this a boring decision fight. But Drew Dober also just tends to out-wrestle to wins a lot of the time. He's got a couple submissions in there. How do you feel about this first fight?
That is exactly what I think. I think Josh Berkman's one of those guys that stifles any excitement that may be in a fight.
Yeah.
He is never going to be the best guy, but he makes the best guys look average. So there's something about him that even though I will not bet on him, I will pick Dober because I think this is a guy... I do hope Drew's getting better here. I do think he's crawling the ranks a little bit. Josh Berkman has tons of experience, and he's going to go in. I think this is going to be a boring wrestling decision, and it could go either way because it's just on who's going to get the most takedowns. I think that's going to be the only thing that matters to the judges at all, and I don't even think there's going to be that many. I think it's going to be just a boring, stifling decision. Both guys are going to be worn out. We're not going to see a ton of damage. I have a Dober decision.
So would you say that this is a Latby rule of the day, which is...
Stay away from the first fight.
Exactly. So moving on to the strawweight division, 115 pounds, we have returning Caitlin Curran against also returning Alessandra Albu. And Alessandra is coming off of like a 4-year break. She's only had 2 professional fights, one of those being in the UFC. I believe she had a boxing career prior to that. She's only 27 years old. I couldn't find the reason of why she took time off, whether she chose to have children or not. I was able to find footage of her last fight in the UFC a few years ago against a fighter who's no longer fighting in the UFC as well. So Curran's definitely the young up-and-comer and the person that the UFC has tried to get behind because she's, I believe, from the island, coming out of Rain MMA, cute, and coming off a 2-fight losing streak against Jamie Moyle, a decision, and Emily Kanga, she beat Emily Kanga. She also lost to Felice Herring via submission a year ago. Curran's been underwhelming. I think they've put a lot into Curran, and she just hasn't really performed. And how do you pronounce her last name? I
have to look at it.
Albu.
Albu.
Albu is much more of the...
I say, fuck you, Albu.
Major League. Great Major League. I think it was Joe Boo.
It was, but I just
Albu,
had to say her last name.
I like it. She's going to end up giving... Albu is going to end up giving 2 inches in size to Curran, but Curran doesn't use her size to her benefit, so I think Albu's boxing. She has a really clean 1-2 and okay takedown defense. Against the caliber that she fought, though, the takedown defense was so bad. Curran does have better takedown defense. We don't know Albu's ground game, really. I think Curran can really exploit that, and I feel like they're trying to set up Curran for a win here, but Curran just seems to really flop sometimes. I definitely am going to pick Albu via submission right now. I'm going to go to a decision on that. I can't do submission. I can't trust this fight at all. I'm going to say stay away. I got Albu decision this fight. How do you feel about it?
I don't think anyone knows about Albu, but I do know about Kaylin Curran, and every single one of her last fights, every loss, the Jamie Moyle decision was a friggin' grind, and Jamie Moyle's looking better. Yep. Felice Herrig, the submission, that Felice Herrig that came out
contender.
Was a beast.
Contender.
And this girl we're watching, Felice Herrig, become beastie. So I'm like, okay, that was a year ago. Emily Kagan, she submits her a year and 7 months ago. 2 years, 2 months ago. Alex Chambers, submission armbar. That submission armbar is something that worked 2 years and 2 months ago.
Right.
In the women's division. It was something that was submitting the best of the best in the women weight classes 2 years and 2 months ago. It doesn't work anymore. Not that you just don't see it as much. Right. And then the Paige Van Zandt KO, that still to this day, 2 years, 8 months ago, is still the reason people pick Paige. Paige looked phenomenal that fight. So I feel like all of her losses, even though there's a shit ton of them, aren't that bad. Now, all that happened pretty much in the time that she's had one submission by guillotine choke against a woman I've never heard of. So I can't go with Albu. I'm going to go with Curran by a decision here, but I think she just has more octagon experience, and maybe it's the G of T, but I just think she looks a little like the Khaleesi, like an olive skin Khaleesi, and
she's good looking.
So I'm gonna go with the Mother of Dragons here and go with Curran decision.
I feel like Curran actually dyes her hair white as well.
The Mother of fucking Dragons. That should be her nickname.
We'll have to see after weigh-ins because you make very valid points. I was able to see the footage of Albu, and it was a couple years ago, and that's scary. I haven't been able to see much more. I did find one fit of her. She looks shredded. I've seen a couple pictures of her, but that doesn't tell me how she punches. So. And
we've been talking about this new breed in MMA and how much it's in 2 years of what women's MMA has done. The Shevchenkos and Nunes of now compared to the Misha Tates and Rondas of 2 years ago. We are in a different game, kids. Not that Albu isn't amazing, but I say fuck you, Albu.
Moving on to the next fight, we have a flyweight bout at 125 pounds between Jared Brooks versus Eric Skelton. Now, Skelton is coming off of a loss in his debut against Alejandro Pantoja in a split decision. We just saw Pantoja fight recently, and you know what kind of a stud that is. So
I wish I could bark like a dog, like a ravenous dog, where like, yeah, that's what I would have done after Pantoja, his last victory.
Yeah, fucking dog. That dude is a beast. So a split decision with Shelton is something to be looked at. His wrestling and his counter striking really is good. He's got a good gas tank, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to try to win a fight. You can't knock him for that. Jared Brooks is debuting in the UFC. He's coming out of Pancrase. He definitely has much more of a ground and pound style. Good takedowns. Really looks to time his takedowns and then go to work. What's starting to happen with these guys that are getting known as takedown guys is knees are starting to come up, which is immediately what I would think is, you're going to be timing that. I'll throw fake hands to throw a knee up the middle. You'll see what happens real quick. And Jared Brooks is coming in with a lot of hype. I think the caliber of fighter that Brooks is fighting is much lower, even though Pancrase traditionally has been one of the original meccas of fighting. I feel like Bellator, LFA, other organizations are better than Pancrase's caliber of fighter right now. Jared Brooks does have a good gas tank as well. I am liking Skelton a little bit more. I just think he's a little bit more experienced. He's already had one in the UFC. I think that experience is going to go a long way. I haven't seen what Brooks looks like in the UFC ring. I'm going to give it to Skelton because of that Pantoja loss. I just feel like not a lot of people can get a split decision with Pantoja, and the fact that a judge gave it to Skelton, and it was worth it. He was in the fight. Like, I think Pantoja won, but big credit to Skelton. I got an underdog here. How do you feel about this fight?
I am going the other way. I have Brooks' decision purely because his nickname is the Monkey God.
I like that nickname.
That's how
Creative.
much I know about it. It's creative. He's young as hell to have this record.
Oh, yeah.
He's so young to be 12-0. It is flyweight in Japan, which means he probably is fighting like 5 times in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Flyweight worldwide, Eric Shelton. What else do we have on him? Submission, triangle choke. You're not going to get that with a guy with any wrestling background. Decision. He's a decision fighter against another guy. I don't see it really going any other way. I think it's going to be a tight decision. It's going to be who is more fun to watch. So I'm thinking with a nickname like Monkey God.
He's going to be
maybe he's a little exciting. I probably won't have this all over my cards. What I have realized about myself, if I bet on fighters I don't know, I always get fucked.
Right.
So
right.
I probably will stay away from this. I don't know enough about either guy. So the Monkey God right now is who I have. Take that for what it is.
I'm going to say why I would pick Brooks is that Pantoja doesn't really throw many takedowns in there, and Brooks is looking for the takedown regularly, and if he does get it, he's really good at being on top. We haven't really seen Skelton go to the ground much because he's been able to keep a lot of fights up.
What's his name? I think it's Shelton.
Is it Shelton? Sorry.
Showtime. Eric Shelton. Yeah, Showtime.
Showtime. So Shelton is definitely...
Is it Skelton?
Skelton?
I don't... No, it's not because the K. Okay. It's not. It's Shelton.
Shelton. So,
but it's tight.
It is a close fight. I would say
you got that baby phone. That's one of the reasons to get a bigger screen.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. In time. So we're definitely moving on to the next fight between Andre Touchy-Feely versus Calvin Kattar. I feel like I don't know much about Kattar. He's coming off the CES scene, decisioning Chris Foster, who's also not UFC caliber worth of a fighter. And CES isn't really known to have too many big guys that have come into the organization. Kattar has definitely more decisions in his background, and we know what we're getting with Touchy-Feely. Good striking, okay takedown defense, can get in brawls. His striking defense is a little suspect, and I feel like it really opens up once he starts to feel it, but that's because Touchy-Feely is throwing a lot of kicks. He's throwing a lot of very flashy, taxing things. He can wrestle because he wrestled in high school and he's proven it in fights, but he's also openly said, Touchy-Feely, that he knows that putting on a striking battle will get him paid more, and unfortunately it hasn't worked out with him because the guys that he's done that with have been able to finish him at times. We know what we're getting with the alpha male guy. His cardio is still on the way. Touchy-Feely is only 27 compared to the 29-year-old debuter in Kattar. The takedown's going to want to be there for Qatar nonstop, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Touchy Feely's going to keep it standing, and it's going to go into the second round where Touchy Feely gets a TKO on the cage.
I have Feely KO round 3, so I agree with you in pretty much everything you said. The only thing that makes me weary on this pick is Andre Feely tends to lose to the newcomer and be the guy that opens up our eyes to somebody we never heard of before. Yeah, if you look at any of the fights he lost, it was against somebody we never heard of before that. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, Yair's the best fighter in the world. Oh my gosh. And I think somebody else too. Oh yeah, Pepe. We're like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. He creates a hype train when they beat Feely. So
because he loses dramatically. He goes limp.
Tends to, but when he's the underdog, when he's going against the guy with, he tends to do well. So that's the only thing that makes me weary in this fight. Everything in my normal, I tend to go with Feely in my bets.
I agree.
And I win, lose. So right now I have Feely KO round 3. Are we about to see Qatar now fight somebody, on his next fight that it's like, Qatar versus the answer BJ Penn. It'll be like BJ Penn versus young stud. So, Feely KO round 3 right now, but he has that weird Uncle Creepy type where something always goes weird. That's how I feel about Feely.
If he loses, he goes out on his shield. Feely ain't in it. He ain't in there to just, even if he's gassed, he'll be putting himself in weird spots just to try to get a finish. But I agree.
I think his cardio is going to outlast the other guy and finish. I have round 3 right now, but I could definitely see end of round 2.
Moving on to the next fight, we have a featherweight bout at 145 pounds between Brian Ortega versus Rento Carnero, or Rento if you're American. So, Brian Ortega, T-City, has definitely coming off of the Diaz Brother 209 compound, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's definitely a big-time jiu-jitsu guy, has regularly been all over YouTube with the Gracie family doing a lot of cop seminars. He teaches police officers how to restrain people outside with weapons and stuff, and they have a whole police jiu-jitsu, Gracie jiu-jitsu system. That's where he trains all day. He's popped for steroids and weed, I believe, Ortega. So that's why he's been off a little bit. But T-City is 11-0. His last fight, though, versus Clay Guida, showed a very, very, very big flaw in the takedown defense of Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is willing to give up the takedown because T-City comes from his triangles. He's known for getting triangles at incredible angles. A lot of people don't do it, but what Clay Guida did for 2 rounds was show you how a wrestler just stifles your hips completely, smothers you, and wins 2 rounds in a row. T-City needed that finish, and it did come by knockout versus Clay Guida, but he was losing that fight up until that point. Carnero is definitely a beast. He's somebody that just split decision Jeremy Stevens 3 months ago. And that was a brawl. Jeremy Stevens was a big favorite in that. Carnero came through with great counter-striking, great gas tank. Carnero also has wins over Tai Sugov in a split decision and Ninamaki via submission. Carnero has great striking, great submissions once it goes to the ground. His team I'm not too familiar with, but he's actually the favorite via the betting lines as of right now at a -135 favorite. And I feel like Carnero can beat Ortega standing, and on the ground he might win. I see why the favorite comes in for Carnero, but what I did like with Ortega is that against Clay Guida, he was in the hole too and still came through to win the fight. So he's willing to try to finish that fight even when he's incredibly gassed. And this is a really, really tough fight. I got an underdog here / near even in Brian T-City Ortega. Round 3 submission. I think it comes late in a grueling grind of a fight. How do you feel about this?
I am with you all day. I got Ortega submission round 2, and it's not, this is actually, to me, a step up for both these guys in the style that they're fighting in competition. I think it's going to be a grueling fight. Jeremy Stevens offers such a different fight than
It's a striking
so many
battle.
so many other fighters, especially in that division. The amount of power he's throwing. This guy was just in that battle 3 months ago, and that was it
was a tough
wasn't.
fight.
Yeah, it was a tough fight. It wasn't by any means one of Jeremy Stevens' craziest, because
Right.
that guy goes apeshit in the octagon.
Right.
But I really just think the damage that. Carnero, is that his name?
Yeah, Carnero.
Carnero
Yep,
took.
you're right.
I think he's going to get cut easy. I think he's going to swell easy. I think he might get knocked out easy. The thing I like about Ortega is I'm not really worried about him having a susceptible chin yet. He is Diaz like that. He's a crazy guy. He will take one to get one. He will fall on his back from a hit just to get his rubber guard. He will do that style. So I do think it's going to be interesting. I do think he's going to figure out a way to get him down. I think he has probably fixed the holes in his game because of the last fight with Clay. And the other thing, we talk about it. Clay Guida is one of those guys that make other guys look bad, and he doesn't get the credit for it.
Yes,
so
agreed.
I just think
he just did it again recently, didn't he?
Yes,
Did he bring it up?
yes.
Again, like Clay Guida is not an easy fight, and everyone gives him shit all the time, but he beats contenders regularly.
So I'm going to go with Ortega submission at the end of round 2, but I could totally see that he has to wait for all the strength to be gone and do it at round 3.
That's kind of what I'm leaning on a little bit. It is more that gas tank on both of them really getting to those spots, and then it's who wants it more at that point. Moving on to the next fight, we have a former champion, longtime reigning Renan Barão versus Aljamain Sterling, and this is at a catch weight, 140 pounds. This, we've seen Barão. He used to be the unbeatable. He used to be almost Anderson Silva-esque in the title reign. I feel like he had a 10-year span where he was unbeaten. He came into the UFC and never lost up until he did lose. And he lost badly to TJ. And that really sparked TJ's career, and why he's kind of such a living legend right now was because Barão has since not looked as good. A lot of USADA fighting in the United States and doing that stuff will really mess you up. Barão's also had, where this comes in at a catch weight is, remember that Barão fell out of a main event because he passed out, hit his head on the tub, and had to go to the hospital? So Barão definitely is getting an advantage by having those 5 pounds. Aljamain Sterling thinks it doesn't matter, but it does matter. It does. That's 5 pounds that Barão of muscle that he's going to be able to put on some which way or the other. Barão's last win is against Felipe Nover, who's no longer in the UFC, or maybe hanging on by a thread. He won by a decision. Just kind of, once TJ beat Renan Barão, he hasn't really been the same, but I feel like he set the blueprint where people understand now the holes that Barão has instead of what they didn't. And he is very looping in his punches. He can get gassed, and Aljamain Sterling has that type of a grind. Renan Barão also has the Novo Niao takedown defense, also training with some of the best in Aldo, in Dantas, in other killers coming up and through there. Aljamain Sterling's coming out of that Sarah Longo, Chris Weidman, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling. I feel like Aljamain Sterling's been kind of really underwhelming. He was supposed to be the mini John Jones. Do you remember all that talk?
I do.
It didn't look like it at all. It hasn't looked like it at all. He's been only lost 2 times, and they've been to Brian Caraway and Rafael Assunção, who
Brian the
are top
Ghost
5s.
Caraway. Brian never to be seen again, Caraway.
Do you know what happened with that? Getting off topic real quick.
No.
So there's rumors, and Misha was on tapes, and they asked her, so we're hearing that you guys broke up. What's going on? And she just chose to say, I don't need people in my business, and I've let too many people in for too long.
Oh, you better put a $100 bill in that you had your phone on.
Oh, all right.
$100 bill right in the jar. Right in the jar.
So, word is that Misha Day's free, and I've seen some nudes slipping out there. I wrote her a tweet. I was just saying, what's up, girl? If you need a shoulder to cry on, I got you.
Joe Rogan was
Cupcake.
like, awooga!
He's like, you want to wrestle?
I know, I wish I had that clip so I could press this button and play that.
So, Brian Caraway.
Hey, Cupcake.
Exactly.
How you doing, girl?
Brian Caraway beating Aljamain Sterling. I think Brian Caraway's a top 5 guy, but it is the ghost of Caraway. A Sun Sao, also top 5 guy. Then Augusto Mendes against Aljamain Sterling was a tough fight. Augusto Mendes is really a dark horse in the division, and Sterling had a good striking, kept the fight where he wanted to standing. That's where Barao wants to keep this fight, in my eyes, is standing. Barao is okay on the ground, but he tends to gas, so I think he wants to stay away from that. I feel like if Sterling uses takedowns, that he never does, never uses his takedowns as much as he should, he will be able to find an avenue in this fight to win. I am liking Aljamain Sterling slightly. I'm going to go with him due to that gas tank. I think he can go for a harder 3 rounds, and Bara's just kind of slipping out of the division. That's how I feel. How do you feel about this fight?
I have Sterling submission round 2.
Wow.
I see him going with this ground game. I think Burrell has been figured out a little bit, but my debate on this was Burrell tends to get really hurt, and Sterling has ugly kicks and knees. He gets hurt, not necessarily cut, and he gets hit so hard that he looks loopy in the cage, and he still tends to go forward. Aljamain Sterling quits. That's my only thing with Aljamain Sterling.
I can see that.
I feel like he just gives up toward the end, and that's a lot, for me to say for the cardio that it takes to go those 15 minutes, but it just, I see it happening.
If you're going to be at that level, you got to fix that.
I feel like the competition, with the exception of the TJ Dillashaw, which Henan Burrell never did good against him.
Right.
His fights have been easier. His 2 wins in the last 2 years have been against Gagnon and Nover.
Agreed. I mean, Gagnon is not even in the scene.
So I feel like if you take his 2 wins, neither of those guys is going to carry Aljamain's umbrella.
Right.
So I'm going to go with Sterling, submission round 2. I do think Henan will keep him away from him for the first one. But because of the kicks and knees and elbows of Aljamain, he's going to want to go to the ground with him, and that's going to get him into trouble. So, Sterling, submission round 2.
All right, moving on to the next fight. We have at a featherweight, between Ricardo Lamas and Jason Knight. Hick Diaz himself. He goes by The Kid, but I feel like the internet's officially named him Hick Diaz, and I feel like he's taken on that moniker as well and been like, cool, I don't care what people call me. Fun fighter. If this is one of these guys that in 5-10 years we're going to be like, wow, he's a Donald Cerrone-esque. We've said it from the get-go, and you can see it in his fighting style. He likes to kickbox, has good striking, tough as nails, willing to give a punch to take a punch, has unique angles, great gas tank. His takedown defense has gone through the roof as of late. I've been a huge Knight proponent his whole career. Facing Ricardo Lamas, former contender, went 5 rounds and is only lost 5 times in his entire career. Ricardo Lamas has definitely been a long-time professional in other organizations. He's definitely a gatekeeper for, if you want to get in that top 5, you got to believe Ricardo Lamas. Ricardo Lamas' last losses out of his last 5 are to Max Holloway, the current belt holder, and Chad Mendes via TKO punches. He also has a win as of late against Diego Sanchez, which is a shell of Diego, and Charles Oliveira via submission guillotine choke. Hick Diaz himself has a TKO over Chad Skelly as of late, a decision over Daniel Hooker, and you can see that the caliber of fighter for Lamas is definitely leaps and bounds higher, and this is a huge step up for Jason Knight. The takedown defense against Skelly and people of that caliber, it's not Ricardo Lamas' style. Ricardo Lamas has elite takedowns. He's gotten against the best of the best and been able to take them down in fights and hold them there. And I don't know if Jason Knight is going to be able to get back to his feet if those takedowns do come. Lamas can get trapped in a firefight. I feel like Holloway and Lamas got some of the notoriety of the year with crossing the line that many fighters have taken from. The Max Holloway line.
Yes, I
that was against Lamas. That was a hell of the last 10 seconds of a fight. Recommend you guys get online and watch that. Ricardo Lamas is still a contender at 35 years old. We definitely have an old guard versus the young guard at 25, but I do think that all the experience, the takedown, the control from the top is going to benefit Ricardo Lamas. His gas tank is starting to show a little bit. I think he can win the first two and then live out Jason Knight into the decision. And I'm going against Nick Diaz. This is not a heart play. This is a tactical play. I just don't see Jason Knight beating the caliber of Ricardo Lamas. I don't think Ricardo Lamas wins a belt anytime soon. I just think Jason Knight's going to grow immensely from this fight, and you're going to see a better Nick Diaz after this point. How do you feel about this fight?
I think Ricardo Lamas has been in battles.
Yep.
He is an exciting fighter to watch. He deserves to be number 4 in the world. Jason Knight, it's the year of the young fighter in the UFC. And Jason Knight's one of those guys. I think he's exciting. I don't even know if it'll be right. It might be one of those things that everyone pulls up the fight metrics afterwards and is like, this is bullshit. Jason Knight did not even land as many punches as Ricardo Lamas, but they'll be more devastating. They'll be more noteworthy. The announcers will be on his side. They're going to be talking about it a little more. I think it's going to be a tougher fight than Ricardo Lamas thinks. I love Max Holloway. I think Jason Knight's one of these kids. I'm giving him a lot of credit by, saying he's like the champ in a way that I just think he is a grinder. I think he's a smart fighter. I think he is a devastating fighter. So I'm going to go Knight decision. I think it's going to surprise Lamas a little bit. And I know it's a weird underdog pick. And
yeah, that's a good one.
It is a heart play, but part of my head says I should go with Knight here too. Eventually that guard has to change, and what better guy to do it than Jason Knight? I'm going to go with the kid.
Ooh.
For a weird little underdog pick there.
I like it. That's ballsy. I could see what you're saying 100%. Jason Knight.
Anyway, you cut it. I don't think he's going to get knocked out, and I think he's going to lay a lot of punches. So I still think he could be worth like 40 points on DraftKings if he's cheap enough.
I think that's a solid play. Even if I don't think he's going to win, I agree. Jason Knight has been proven to have a high output. He throws 3,000 punches a fight. You can quote me on that.
And he has a better ground game than
you would think. I would agree.
I think
he showed against Chaskelly, which everyone said Chaskelly's going to
And the other thing,
finish him.
I feel like usually Lamas has a reach advantage with the opponents for such a small weight and such a small frame. He usually has a couple inches. I don't think he's going to have that advantage.
Not here.
So
not here. I feel like Jason Knight is 5'11" to Ricardo Lamas is 5'8", with the 71 inches for Ricardo Lamas to 71.5 for Jason Knight. So half of an inch. Wow. Ricardo Lamas got some gorilla monkey arms.
Yes.
So moving on to the next fight, we have a pay-per-view main event starting off with Jimmy Manuwa versus Volkan Ozdemir. Jimmy Manuwa, I feel like, do I have to explain why this guy's going to be the heavy decided favorite? I don't know what it is. It's like, oh, really? A slight minus 165 against Ozdemir, who's just fought 2 fights in the UFC, I believe. He knocked out Shirkinov, which he was a 6-1 underdog, with that weird punch to the temple, and Shirkinov went out in 10 seconds. Do you remember that recently in the cage? So he became a top 5 contender after that fight.
Because the division's weak.
And he beat Ovens St. Preux in a split decision prior to that. And that was his debut in the UFC, was against Ovens St. Preux. So we've seen what Manuwa can do when he's on a healthy camp. He looks like a freaking tank with good takedown defense. His chin he's a little chinny. He's not the youngest guy out there. He definitely has much more the boxing-oriented style. Oh, good takedown defense. He gasses. He's shown that he doesn't gas as much as he used to. He's taken care of that a lot. But at 37 years old, with the amount of muscle mass he has, if the juice stops flowing or if he gets caught anytime soon, I'm not going to be surprised. I mean, it's the smell test. If it smells like shit.
He's a male model too, isn't he?
No, I don't believe he is.
Oh, well, he's a handsome young man.
Really? He's very I could see that.
I think he's a male model. I really do. I don't know why I think
Jimmy
that.
Manuwa. He's a freaking tank. He's
Look what his nickname is, Poster Boy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I think that, though. Could be.
How do you end up feeling about this? Well, let's see. I got Jimmy Manuwa keeping it standing because Ozdemir's coming so fast, so quick. I just feel like the takedowns aren't going to be there. We did just see I feel like Shurkanov could beat Manuwa, but I feel like Manuwa could beat Ozdemir just because he can keep it standing long enough to be able to land that kill strike. I got TKO round 1 Manuwa, but I might stay away from this completely because Ozdemir's had enough upsets already with OSP, which I guess isn't that big of an upset, but the Shurkanov, that was just...
If you think about it, this is why you stay away from this fight. Here's all the weird factors of it.
All right.
This is a fake division. This is fake numbers. Everything about it is fake. The belt holder for the champion is fake. Everything about this whole division is a weak division that the only reason it kind of exists is for people for John Jones to run through. And when he's done with it, he's going to move up, and then this division sits where? No one's interested in it. I don't know. So that's Jimmy Manuwa is equally as fluffed of a number as Ozdemir. I remember when they moved him up too. So I think they're both fluffed. They both OSP are both their claims to fame, and I feel like on that.
True.
So I feel
OSP went to decision with John Jones, who switched his opponent in 2 days.
And that was why he had hype.
Yes,
and then
that's exactly why.
Which is the same thing that if you think about DC going to decision with Anderson Silva off the bench. Like literally walking like, I was here to watch the fight and now I'm fighting.
I'm eating a pizza. And Dana White's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to make weight.
Because they're like, I'm fighting a deadly guy in a day's notice. Give me a break. Speaking of the day's notice, they can never make a woman's fight in a day notice. Because it takes 72 hours to get a pregnancy test back.
Was that why JJ specifically wasn't allowed?
Yeah, pregnancy test. It takes 3 days.
I thought you pee on a stick.
Yep. Isn't that bullshit? But the commission said...
Is it some fetus bullshit?
I don't even know. 3 days.
Because it's all one conception. It was based...
I don't even know, but I just feel like you can pee on a stick from the Walgreens. We can get this done in 10 minutes.
Walgreens? You go 99 cents store, girl. Come on. We're living on a fight lifestyle right now. Give me that little Walgreens pee stick.
You got to get an expensive one.
Just to make sure. Yeah. Just to make sure.
Give me the computerized one. It's like, you aren't pregnant. So I feel like Jimmy Manuwa is just as much of a fluffed number. Corey Anderson isn't exciting for me. It's just as likely that he caught him on the same spot that Ozdemir did. Here's why I'm going to go with Ozdemir.
Ooh.
And this is a huge underdog.
Ooh,
but I think Jimmy Manuwa is a phony hype train. I think they're trying to build him up into something, and he could be figured out by somebody with a mild ground game or just as much punching power that can outpunch him in the first round or even just to survive the first round. Because like you were saying, he has no gas tank. Ozdemir has an evil ground game. He's strong as an ox. And think about it. You just said it. He knocked out who in his last fight?
Shurkanov.
So screw that. He was training for the months beforehand for going against Shurkanov. You're telling me his ground game isn't tight as anything right now?
Yeah.
Who doesn't have a ground game? Manuwa. OSP showed that, he could get him up against... Wait, that happened quick in his fight. Was it quick?
Yeah,
or he held him up against the fence? Or no, that was a quick knockout. That was the one where his leg went blink to the side.
Right.
So I just am not into Jimmy Manuwa at all. I might have Ozdemir on a few of my cards. I think it's worth it for the underdog pick.
He's going to be a big underdog, and that might be some good parlays.
So I have Ozdemir decision. I think as long as he makes it through the first round, he will take him down, and it will be an ugly fight. And I bet Jimmy Manuwa gives up. So I could change it to an Ozdemir knockout. But it would happen later.
I like that. I think you make really solid points, and after weigh-ins, we're going to see what happens. I think that I'm going to stay clear of this, but me having anytime I see a TKO or a finish on my card, I tend to play it heavy on DK, but this is one of those that's like, it's either Manuwa, TKO round 1, or it's decision, Ozdemir. And... where do you get the most DK points? It's going to be in the takedowns for 3 rounds if they come that way.
I don't think Ozdemir is chinny.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the other two knockouts of the fighters, to me, chinny. So Manawa might be able to punch hard. I just don't think Ozdemir that ain't his style. He ain't there to get punched hard.
I'm a little more excited for that fight the more I talk about it with Ozdemir, just because the way he's come into the sport, and nobody gave this guy.
I think he could be the real hype train.
He's not even a hype train.
No, I think he could be.
Right. Or the dark horse.
I think he could steal it from Manawa in this fight.
I would agree with that.
Because Manawa's, to me, a phony hype train, people.
Shurkinov is not. That is so unreal. But is it a fluke? If you land a punch, it's not a fluke. If you throw a punch and it lands, I don't care where it is, it's not a fluke because you meant to throw that punch, right? Like, so I can see where people are like, there's no such thing as a lucky punch. And the more I go on talking about fights, it's true. If I threw my leg up, no matter where I threw it, and it lands on your head, I did that.
You trained for 3 months to do that.
If I check your leg to stop you from throwing those kicks and your leg breaks, I did that. If I break your ACL because I shot on you and your knee breaks, I broke your knee. You didn't just fall over. That was me. So I don't believe... I don't believe necessarily the lucky thing.
When you're against the best in the world, millimeters mean everything.
Agreed.
So it's... Jose Aldo laid a punch at the exact same time. Yeah, the exact same time that he got knocked out. He laid a punch. Maybe it would have knocked out Conor. Maybe that punch would have been everything to knock out Conor McGregor. But millimeters matter in the UFC. And I think Ozdemir has those millimeters. Who has a longer reach, speaking of that?
Great point. 79.
79.5. That is a reach advantage.
So it's, 4.5 of a reach disparity for Manawa and his benefit. Manawa's a clean boxer. That's a rough one. Moving on to the next fight, we have... should be the co-main event of the co-main event.
See, that's where I'm like, oh my gosh, this card.
This is unreal of a fight.
Mac has done nothing to me for this card.
This is just, goddamn, we have Robbie Lawler versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. We have Ruthless coming in with credentials of a god in MMA. He's been fighting since he was 19 years old, came up through the military system, which is Matt Hughes, which...
is doing better, by the way, everyone.
He's walking and talking, and people have finally come out and been like, he was trying to beat a Coltrane. People are saying suicide and this, that, and the other, and Milicic said it himself, hey, he was trying to beat a Coltrane because they're 5 mile long worth of coal. So if you get stuck behind a train, you're stuck there for an hour.
And they go slow.
Exactly. So he was trying to beat it and then got hit on passenger side, but good to hear. So Robbie Lawler is definitely got the credentials. Last loss coming to Tyron Woodley. T. Wood, the current champ, and we've seen the type of defense that he's already had. He's coming up with a hell of a fight here soon as well. And Robbie Lawler has, other than that one punch, because it was one punch that put him on his butt and finished him. Robbie Lawler has been a part of Fight of the Year 2 years in a row. He sent a star to Bellator. Robbie Lawler has killed mightier men than Donald Cerrone.
He's changed fighters'
trajectory. Yeah.
Just
Johnny
changed
Hendricks
their
as well.
whole... They've never fought the same since
Roy
Robbie.
McDonald, Johnny Hendricks. Different men after they fought Robbie Lawler. Different men, 100%. Cowboy Cerrone, we definitely have the Muay Thai stylist coming in. He's got a wicked ground game. Great takedown defense if he wants to. He can go to the ground if gotten there. Good gas tank. Donald Cerrone's biggest flaw is that his mental state. Some days he said he just wakes up and doesn't want to fight. And he's come back and had amazing performances since then and has gotten the urge to fight. And other times has said, man, I was worried about fishing out in Lake Titicaca somewhere and drinking my Budweisers instead of fighting. So it's really hard for him. You really got to watch weigh-ins and try to gauge as much stuff from around him that you can to see that if he's in the fight.
Do you think if an on-point Donald Cerrone can beat Robbie Lawler?
It depends on how Robbie Lawler looks after he's gotten...
The best Donald Cerrone. Can that Donald Cerrone beat Robbie Lawler?
The best Robbie Lawler?
Just Robbie Lawler.
Robbie Lawler. I'm gonna say.
Just Robbie Lawler in the last 3 fights. That Robbie Lawler.
But Robbie Lawler has, in the last 3 fights, been specifically a striker. Specifically a striker in kickboxing. And that's what Donald Cerrone does. So who's a better kickboxer striker? I want to say that ruthless Robbie throws with devastating power. We've seen it happen multiple times over. Willing to rip his face open to give a shot. His nose is as flat as can be for a reason. It's whether he wants to. As much as we have to watch Cerrone and his mental state, we have to watch Robbie Lawler's mental state.
Is ring rust real?
I think that ring rust is real. I think that there is very few people that have proven that it's not, and that it's all a mental thing, which there is. I see their point. This is a hard one to pick. I feel like I'm going to stay away from this one on the betting lines. I'm going to put either one, if not both of these guys, on my DK. This is only going to go 3. No, I'm not. I usually tend to do that with 5-round fights because you'll tend to get it there. This is just going to be one to watch for me. I'm going to go with this turns into a kickboxing match and Donald Cerrone splits a decision against Robbie Lawler. I think that Lawler might not be where he needs to be because he has moved away from ATT. His whole camp where he reigned, he's been away from. This is his first fight back with none of that. I don't know. We don't know where he's been. He's just coming back for this fight and feels like he's ready for it. And Donald Cerrone's had more and more training camp at his facility that is just breeding more and more fighters, with his number one girl being a big facilitator of that. I'm liking the split decision. I got the slight underdog with the plus 130. Donald Cerrone, how do you feel about this fight? This is a headliner anywhere you look at it.
That Rory McDonald Robbie Lawler fight.
The Red King. It changed his nickname from the Natural to the Red King.
Since that fight, to me, Robbie Lawler, that was a battle for him. And he hasn't been the same since. I know he beat Carlos Condit, but yeah. Carlos Condit hasn't been in headspace for 3 years.
Like, since Tyron Woodley tore his knee.
He hasn't even been in the right place of mind. He goes against Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley knocks him clean out. So I know Donald had that brutal knockout just, before, but he's had even more time now to cope from healing it, because he said he was ready to go last time, that he just didn't get cleared in time because he had staph or something.
Right.
And his knockout against Jorge Masvidal, right, for you and me, I love Jorge. I think Jorge's one of the baddest MFers in the whole friggin' ring.
Agreed.
So getting knocked out you got knocked out by one of the great guys in the division. So to me, I feel like if you can go with Jorge, you can go with Robbie. Jorge is greater than the last 3 guys Robbie's faced, in my opinion, with the exception of Tyron Woodley.
Uh-huh.
I think Jorge is better than Carlos Condit. I think Jorge, right now in the UFC, if they were to fight, I think he's better than Carlos Condit. I think he's better than Rory McDonald.
Uh-huh.
I think he's better than Johnny Hendricks. I think he's better than better than Matt Brown.
I feel like I
feel like if Cowboy, with the training of being prepared for a guy like Jorge, who can just take him down and muscle him too, but is going to keep it standing, I think it's going to be a very similar fight, which makes me a little nervous because Robbie comes forward the same way as Jorge does, with straight punches, straightforward. I just want to hope Donald's going to almost fight the same fights, and my hope is he doesn't make the same mistake twice. So, because I almost feel like it's almost the same training. So I hope we see vintage Cerrone here, and I think for the first time since he's been walking around 170, we remember what kind of ground game he has. He doesn't stand there and take all the punches, and he submits Lawler in round 2. That's my prediction.
Wow. There's money to be had on that play, I guarantee it.
Cowboy on the ground's a bad motherfucker, and we forget that.
Oh, yeah, no. He is a ground specialist. He went to the ground and got amazing at it because people kept taking him down, and he's like, okay, I'll just get really good on the ground.
It's weird we both have Cerrone here.
I agree.
Because
this is our Leslie
Lawler,
Smith all the way.
I know how everyone feels about Robbie.
Yeah.
I know. I just feel like his reign is over.
I agree.
know it hurts people.
He's been in it for a long time, and he's 35. Not that that's old, but
Because
he
Cowboy's
started it,
34.
and they both have been fighting. Because Cowboy's been fighting since he was 16. Robbie Lawler got into it, literally got into the UFC at like 20 years old back in the VHS tape days, and has never stopped fighting ever.
My hope is Cowboy doesn't give the fans what they want, because that's how Cowboy tends to go in. And he knows he's going against Robbie. It's only 3 rounds in his head. Let's just give him a brawl.
Right.
If he does that, he loses by knockout.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's the scariest thing.
But if Cowboy goes in and his mind's on point...
Right. I could flip and flop this fight to where I'm going to see weigh-ins and I'm going to see the rest of the week. I could flop Lawler decision in this, because I see this just staying a kickboxing match. Who's going to shoot it? Imagine the takedown coming. Who do you think would do it?
Lawler.
I don't think he does. I think all of the fights that you just named, he kept them striking. If anything, people shot on him, he would sprawl, get into a strike, and would just come forward, as you're saying, and just beat them to a pulp. He could do that to Cerrone. It's a tough fight. I could see where people pick Lawler on this.
Cerrone cannot sit there and bang with Robbie, or he is gone all day. I will probably have Robbie on some cards. I don't think this can be my Leslie Underdog Smith, because I don't, in my gut,
I know. I feel like this is a heart play. I feel like this is, but I don't know why I feel like Cerrone. I feel like it's a gritty split. But a split is a hard one to pick. You heard it here first.
I feel like it could be a head kick. It could be... Ooh, I'm staying with Cerrone right now, but you hear how I feel about it.
Right. I'm in that boat as well. Moving on to the next fight, we have a championship co-main event with Christiana Cyborg contending for the vacant 145 belt against Tanya, debuting Evinger from Invicta, long-reigning champ. Tanya Evinger has been a consistent favorite in every single one of her fights in her last 8 fights in Invicta, but the Invicta women are a great feeder league for the UFC, and it's getting to be rarer and rarer that they're just coming in being champions and are going to stay like that. And if you followed us at any point in time, you understand that we understand that just Christina Cyborg is a monster on all levels, and is willing to give a shot to take a shot, has devastating power, is great on the ground as a specimen of an athlete. She is a true professional in the sense, all she wants is a winning advantage in most ways. Who doesn't? And she's paid for that. And Tanya Evinger is going to now pay, because there's no point in this fight. Tanya Evinger reaches for takedowns, head down, arms out, and I just see an uppercut coming. I see TKO round 2. I could easily move that to round 1. I could explain it for days, but I don't think it needs to be there. How do you feel about this fight?
I actually think it's Cyborg's hardest fight she's ever had in the octagon.
Interesting. I like it.
I think Evinger is, she has great takedown defense. So Cyborg's not going to take it there immediately. She has some tricky takedowns herself. She has a very big wrestling base. Right. And her punching power is devastating as well. I think it's going to be the first time. I love Leslie Smith, but Leslie Smith doesn't throw as hard as Tanya Evinger.
I'd agree with that.
And so I feel like this is the first time that Cyborg is going to feel... Not that she hasn't in way past battles, because I know, who did she go in against that beat her one time? That was all the...
Barnes in kickboxing?
Yeah, kickboxing. I know different sports. Right. I just think Evinger is gritty. I think she has tenacity. I think she is older herself. She is going to make it. She's going to be the first person we see against Cyborg in the UFC make it through one round. I think she's going to make it through a full round with her.
I have round 2 right now.
I have Christiana Cyborg KO round 2, and I think Evinger might be cheap enough. And she's just going to throw. She's going to throw. And she has tricky submission, or tricky takedowns.
I feel like what she is going to do, if there's an avenue for Evinger, is push her right up against the cage. Push her up against the cage immediately, push Christina Cyborg. But Christina Cyborg is notorious for that great Muay Thai clinch where she will turn you around on the cage and start throwing them knees. She will start throwing them knees, and Evinger she's got a good chin, but I give her a lot of credit, and Tanya Eminger is somebody that you're gonna see stay in the top of the division if she decides to stay. She's 36 years old, and in the women's division, we don't know really what that peak age is for them, for women. So
Cyborg. This
Cyborg.
is a dangerous. I have Cyborg round 2 as well.
Me too.
This is the first time we're going to see Cyborg in the UFC also at 145. This is the first time we're going to see her at a little more comfortable weight, where she's not going to have to do the last few pounds to make the drastic cut. I believe this is her hardest battle yet. I don't believe she's going to lose. So I do have Cyborg KO round 2. It'll be worth enough points. She'll get over 100 points. Whatever her cost is, she'll be worth it.
Yeah,
I don't
agree.
know if she'll be the most. I don't believe that she'll get the most points of the night.
I can't wait to see this young up and coming girl that's training in her bag in her garage right now. When that girl comes into this sport and beats Justine Cyborg, it's gonna be a changing of the guard. She's gonna hold it for a little while, just within her style, but we're going to see a star be born in her wake, and she's wanted to be a star for so long.
It's going to be like Sarah McMahon's daughter.
So what's going to happen with Cyborg, I'm calling it right now, and I love Cyborg, and I understand that she's a living legend in the sport right now, but she's asked for that fame for so long that someone's going to make name off of her fame that she never had. They'll be like, she beats Christina Cyborg. Who was that? Is what people are going to say.
I think it's almost, she's going to be like the Mike Tyson of this sport. Where it's not about whoever she's fighting, it's just the spectacle of watching her beat someone to a pulp.
Yes.
And the one day that she does go against someone that is about fighting as well, it's going to be like the Mike Tyson.
It happened with Justine Barnes. Definitely watch that fight because
you're right. There is a 145-pound division, and there's the girl training in her gym now that realizes there's a weight class for her.
Yep.
What happens?
She's watching Cyborg like TJ was watching it when they were in high school, and they're like, I was watching Barao since I was in high school. There's girls in that'll fight Christina Cyborg in 4 years, and they're just going to be like, I've been training to fight you since I was in my garage. Can't wait to see that fight. Like any other Christina Cyborg fight.
She's so classy, though. She's a classy one. I think she has handled... The more I've met her, watched things, not actually met her in person, just got to know her through different documentaries, different podcasts, I just think she's really dealt with it. And at the time she was coming up, it was, yes, all the steroids and everything were illegal, but every single person in the sport was doing them.
Agreed.
And if you actually see now, there was a speckled few guys that weren't doing them, and those guys rose to the top after the USADA era. You see the Michael Bispings who have been clean forever, and the Dan Hendersons had a little reign again. Or I don't know if Dan Henderson was clean forever. I don't know.
No, he was an exempt TRT guy.
Yeah, okay. But I just think that I hope her story, I hope it's not true. I hope she does get to have some of the fame before her career. I hope within the next 4 years the UFC really markets her right and treats her.
I understand the type of star she is, and I hope that she doesn't, but I'm getting the feeling where she's at that because there's been no challenge. It's almost a DJ. She beats people to a pulp so badly, so quickly that people don't get behind it because it looks so easy. And when she finally... It was the Daniel Cormier to John Jones. She needs that. She doesn't have that. So people aren't going to understand how great she is until she finds that and finally gets made off that fight.
She needs the Holly Holm fight.
I think she beats Holly Holm in 2-3 rounds.
But Holly carries a ton of fans.
Holly has a real shot with her movement. And her being able to fatigue people, because that's a good way to fight Cyborg, is let her wear down. We've never seen her go to round 3.
We've never seen Holly unleash the beast. Even everyone says Ronda, and I'm like, no, it's just perfect game plan. But the Holly Holmes that unleashes the beast, unreal. Like, what would that? I don't think her camp allows them to unleash the beast. But if Holly went John Jones in the ring, she has kind of the similar style.
But it's not her, because it's like she's been a professional for so long. It's just not her style.
Preacher's daughter.
I knew people were gonna boo, and I had one of the worst fights of the year but I didn't
I
care.
needed the W so bad, you guys.
Exactly. Sorry. Moving on to the next co-main event
This
for the
fight.
belt at
This
178
fight.
pounds. We have Tyrone T. Wood versus Damian Maia. A master versus a master. I mean, Tyron Woodley coming off of being now multiple reigning champ at 170, devastating hands, amazing wrestling, came off of the same circuit as Johnny Hendricks, has a notorious win over Johnny Hendricks or loss. Somebody bit somebody in one of those matches back in the day. And T. Wood only has a couple losses, only 3 of them in his whole career, and has really redefined his entire game. Uses his takedown defense in reverse, uses wrestling in reverse his entire career now to stay striking and land that right hand. Tyron Woodley's right hand shuts people's lights out. Ask anybody who's been in there. He's notorious. In Jim's practice, everyone has said multiple times over, Tyron Woodley hits harder than any other person I've ever seen. He also blitzes in his style. So, you know how Aldo blitzed into McGregor's fist? T. Wood leaves that opening. Kevin Gastelum showed it at times, that opening. And I'm just saying that nobody's exploited that yet, but it's there to be seen. Unfortunately, Damian Maia isn't that type of fighter. We know what we're getting with Damian Maia. This is a true black belt's black belt. This guy has been submitting the people like decisioning Jorge Masvidal, which giving Damian Maia with the credentials he's ever had in a fight. Damian Maia has been around forever in the jiu-jitsu scene and the MMA scene. Got away from his jiu-jitsu long ago to go for striking. Lost a couple fights, went to his jiu-jitsu, and has now acquired a 7-in-a-row streak against top contenders. He recently decisioned Jorge Masvidal, saying Jorge Masvidal is the second best grappler or best grappler he's ever faced his entire career in the UFC. Speaking to Jorge Masvidal, why he's that great.
Game bread.
Exactly.
Dog barking sound.
If you were to see that last fight, though, you're going to, between Jorge Masvidal and Damian Maia, you're going to see a backpack, which T. Wood put on and did a whole training camp with a backpack on his back. If you saw that wonderful YouTube video. Damian Maia will find a way to get you to the ground. He's willing to go to his back. He has unorthodox takedowns. He'll trip the outside of the knee, do stuff that's not going to work on T. Wood. It's just not going to happen. What's going to be, I feel like this fight is going to be a very slow fight because you know what's going to happen. They're going to go to the ground and it's going to be a decision Masvidal type of a fight. But I feel like the reverse wrestling and that devastating right is going to come through. I feel like T. Wood has said multiple times that he's been training with these karate guys, so he understands how to fight against them. And in the fighting against them, I feel like he picked up tricks, and he's going to do a lot of the same striking he does, but his feet are moving differently than before. He's taken this champ role and not stayed at a gym. He goes to gyms, has gyms come to him. He's doing it uniquely.
Very Shevchenko style, and all the fighters we see doing that right now are successful in the UFC.
Damian Maia just again has that one avenue. He's stricken with the best of them, but has realized long ago that he just can't do it. This is the last run. I think this is Damian Maia's retire fight. Knocking on wood. I'm just saying that right now. Win or lose.
Knocking on T. Woodley.
I feel like he's not gonna come in and make another run. I know he's taken minimal damage in his last 4 fights. I think it's been like 13 strikes total he's had landed on him, but still just the amount of time at 39 that Damian Maia has been in jiu-jitsu, let alone how that wearing is on the body, high level, that T. Wood's going to end up getting a round 3 TKO, wrestling in reverse, heavy right hand, just a matter of time. This is going to be a 5-rounder. How do you feel about this fight?
The fact that it's a 5-round fight is what is Woodley's advantage. Well, Woodley has a couple of advantages.
Agreed.
He has like a 97% takedown defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest in his weight class, as high as the division's ever seen. Strong. It's the first time Maia's come into the octagon against a guy that walks around at the same natural weight Maia walks around at. Maia's used to being the bigger guy by far, but they're 2 huge dudes cut into 170. Right. So Maya was significantly bigger than Jorge. But another thing, when I was watching the embeddeds, or the build up to the fight, I don't even know if it was the embeddeds.
Countdowns.
Maya said something that it red flagged me for any of my doubt, and my doubt was gone. He said, and not word for word, but pretty much, it will be the perfect ending. So mimicking what you said, you think this will be his last fight.
Yep.
I too think it will be his last fight. And every single time we see a guy with that mentality get into the octagon, they lose.
Yeah.
They lose. They already have one foot out the door.
Yep.
So I just think T Wood stronger than Jorge. Everything that Jorge did right in that fight, that if it would have gone longer, I think we would have seen Jorge take over and knock out Maya. So I think T Woods is going to take over and knock out Maya. I think T Woods is stronger than than Jorge Masvidal, and I think we're going to see a lot of the same things. But we all know what Damian Maya is going to do. We have just seen T Woods in the octagon for the last 10 rounds against Stephen Thompson, who's not going to try and take T Woods down. Mm-hmm. So everybody forgets what T Woods is going to do. He's not going to be taken down by Damian Maya. So I do think it could be a stifling, boring couple of 1-2 rounds. I think we're going to see amazing sprawls. I think it's going to be an exciting fight.
I agree.
I think T Woods is going to KO Damian Maya, and I'm going to give him to round 4. I think we're going to watch the repeat of the first 3 rounds of Jorge Masvidal versus Damian Maya, and then T Woods is going to take over, and he is used to the championship rounds at this point. He's been in there with Stephen Thompson and having to earn every minute of every one. So it's going to be fine for him. He's ready for it. T Woods, and I think he will finally earn the respect from the MMA fans that
he's a true champ, because people for some reason feel like he's not legitimate, and I'm like, he's proven himself more than most champs at this point.
Woods.
More than most.
He's so respectable.
Conor not representing his division. GDR not caring that the belt's taken from her. Freaking interim belt after interim. Bisbee not fighting.
Not showing up for her fight.
Exactly.
You only have Stipe. He's doing what he's supposed to.
But he deserves.
JJ. There's a few speckled through, but
agreed.
I agree with you. T Woods has been a representation for his division. He's been there at all the biggest fights. He's not pulling out of fights. He's doing all the extra, not bitching about anything. Give him his due. And I hope this is the fight that gets him his due. He's a class act. T Woods.
I would agree with that. How do you feel with the entire T Wood situation of him as of recently saying they ain't promoting me because I'm black, and he was playing the race card, and they were like, oh, because I recently heard him on the MMA Hour talking about how, well, he's now talked to people and they just had a misunderstanding. Same with DJ. When that check starts writing out and they're like, how can we fix this? Oh, we just had a misunderstanding. It wasn't the way I had said it when I had meant it.
I don't want to think it, and everyone says, look how many champions, like they promoted. Look at Anderson Silva, but Anderson Silva kind of did that himself, and look at who was a bigger star. Yeah, and look who was a bigger star, GSP at the time. So then you take DJ, you have Mighty Mouse, complains about the same thing. You have another person of color, not necessarily black, but Amanda Nunes has complained about the same thing. Mm-hmm. So is it true? Would the UFC, of course they'd rather a Ronda Rousey over Amanda Nunes. Like, that's their shtick. Right. Like, they would rather a Luke Rock. Well, I think they love Bisping carrying this belt. I think he fits into this, like, he's so popular in London, he's kind of a movie star, but I think Luke Rockhold fits the UFC narrative. I think the Chris Weidmans of the world fit the UFC narrative.
I would agree.
I think Conor McGregor had to make his own narrative.
Well, he had to show them with the bling-bling that...
Well, he just created his own character. I think T. Woods needs to do that too, and the knockouts, pretty much a fighter can't contain their fame if the knockouts add up in the ring. They can't contain it. Eventually, everyone jumps on. But I think JJ, the UFC has a rough time promoting her, and her success in the ring is slowly building her an enormous fan base. Holly Holm, she had a success in the ring, which you just mentioned earlier in the fight, somebody else can do all the work to build their fame bubble, and you can just pop it and take it all in one strike.
Yep. I don't know if she took it all because Holly Holm has been she's still a fan favorite. She still is a fan favorite.
For what she's done in the octagon
yeah.
to how much fame she has. Holy moly. Like, she hasn't really done anything in the octagon.
She's been a decision fighter, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, so.
So moving on.
So we both have T Woods.
T Wood via TKO. I could see also in the late, if T Wood is smart enough to take him down with 10 seconds left, where the submission's not coming, and ground and pound a TKO.
Well, I think it could be a first-round knockout. Well, Damian Maia doesn't realize how strong T Wood's going to be and how good his takedown defense is. I could see T Wood stuffing in the face and just uppercut.
Yeah.
Like, I think it could be something.
If it happens, it's TKO Woodley submission Maia. Main event, a 4-5-year rematch
at all. I think decision Woodley.
So that's a DK
Woodley.
play. DK play all day. T Wood.
T Wood, that's
It's a DK. That's the all right. So 4 years in the making. The low blows have been thrown nonstop. We have been hearing about it and everything. I know. We are.
How you gonna fuck it up, John Jones?
4 or 5 days away now. How many days are we from this thing? Freaking. We are 3 days away from the fight. So we're in the twilight. We're in that magic hour right now where somebody can fart in the wind next door and knock somebody out of this fight.
Yeah.
John Jones, the low blows have
Somebody
been
can fart on a pregnant lady.
As a Blake John Jones.
Yeah. Anything could friggin' happen.
Anything right now.
A pee test that is...
A baby mama can come out of nowhere. I mean, they can...
DC might not make weight.
DC's getting old and his knees are getting bad. Because DC's dropped this fight as well. This has been like 4 years that it has not
could tell fought. DC that he's pregnant.
So, all of the shit talking, the press conferences, did you happen to hear that latest phone conference I had yesterday?
Yes.
How are you feeling about this? This definitely, for me and you, I feel like, any fight fan, this is fight of the year contention. It is a rematch, which is rare. I feel like number twos usually don't get as much hype, or do you feel like they usually do? Or they're more notorious?
I'm very excited for this fight.
I'm incredibly excited. And the first one was boring.
That's all what it's based on, really. Is that the first one? Like, you're not excited. Part of the problem we had with T Woods and Wonder Boy was that it was too close together. This one's too far apart.
Too far, exactly. exactly. And Cormier has defended multiple times over now that belt. So the whole narrative of you didn't earn that belt, there's no fucking way he didn't earn that belt.
For me, I disagree.
Nonstop. Really?
Because he never fought the person for the belt to begin with. He just fought the number 3 guy. So really, he fought the number 3 guy in a division that sucks, that they created a number 3 guy just for them to put him up there for him to get the belt. Who did he go against to get the belt?
OSP.
Exactly. So I think you're a paper.
Actively the number 2.
I think in Gustafsson, he had such a gap in between, and he was not the same guy
DC
coming into the fight.
Said multiple times that the only fight he doesn't want is the Gustafsson rematch. He's like, that dude kicked the living shit out of my body. I don't want to do that again. The recent chatter that as of late with all of the shit talking, the promo of the year. There's just so much content.
Even when John Jones won, in quotes, the interim belt, he's like, I don't even want that belt.
I love that. Why I love John Jones. I love that John Jones, I feel like, even talked about as of late in the press conference, like, he didn't want to be the heel, but he didn't realize this, and he's now taking it for what it is. That's all we want for all of them. And Daniel Cormier has kind of been like this all-American dad that's just like, you can be on the straight and narrow and still win, children. And like, people want the DX chop. People want the cocaine and hookers. People want hitting pregnant babies. People want that shit.
And really, let me run through Daniel Cormier's reign as champion. Anthony Johnson submission, which
Only DC has beat him as of late.
and who have you ever seen anyone give up to the extent?
No,
and right afterward, guess what he did afterward?
Never quit.
What did he say afterward? I retire.
Oh yeah, that too. I'm gonna get in that.
And what do we
money.
say about anyone who's going to retire?
Right.
They're going to lose that fight. They already knew they were going to retire going into it. So there's that Anthony Johnson. He didn't go against the monster we once knew. Then Anderson Silva, a regular 185er that came really out of his chair eating pizza.
on tape.
He had jeans on and a sweater at weigh-ins. He had on his winter coat at weigh-ins.
With glasses.
So that was his other one. A split with Gustafsson, which is the one he said that he doesn't want to do again, and it was a split, so it was probably sketchy to begin with. And it was also like the first time Alexander had any kind of real competition in years.
Agreed.
Since he was in the ring with John Jones, and all of a sudden 5-round fight.
Uh-huh.
So, and which one of these was Towelgate? But that's besides the point. And so then the win right before that is the Anthony Johnson submission. That submission 2 months ago, that might have been fine.
That was the first
John
time
Jones' decision. So his only one, John Jones' decision. So he beat the number 3 guy to get the belt. John Jones was away from the sport for 2 years. It had nothing to do with DC. It's not DC's fault that John James. But if the whole division is, except for 3 dudes, and they're creating Manawa and Ozdemir to come out of the woodwork.
Ozdemir out of the woodwork. Like Ozdemir, like 2 years ago.
Manawa as well.
Yeah, true. True.
Someone beats OSP, and then all of a sudden they're ranked number 4. But OSP's lost 5 times in a row, but you still beat him and become number 4. It's
Great
crazy
points.
to me.
Great points. I like what you're saying here. So, you're getting the wrestler. You're getting a guy. If you got to go back to the first fight, which ended up turning into a clinch battle where DC reigns, and this is notorious John Jones. John Jones beats people in their best avenue. He's done it for every single fight. People said he can't strike with Shogun. Strikes with Shogun. It just is notorious John Jones tactics. John Jones is also, as of late and forever, said, my camp studies more tape than most people. But like Conor McGregor, John Jones is like, you don't. I go home and I study tape. I watch, and guess what? You haven't had tape on me for 3 years. I've had tape on you for the last 6 fights. I know what you're gonna do, Daniel Cormier. And we know
we
John
all
Jones.
know what you're gonna do, Daniel Cormier.
Right. We all know that wrestling clinch is coming in. I feel like Cormier, did he throw a couple spinning kicks when he was beating the living shit out of a couple guys once it was like the 3rd or 4th round?
Yeah.
So
silly.
I don't think those are going to happen against John Jones because he can't afford to ever give up his back to John Jones, ever, or that fight will be over. But in a younger man, in more nothing but training with the best, even though John Jones, the only way John Jones loses this fight is if he fucks it up for himself. I feel like John Jones has proven it time and time again that he's better on the ground. He has better striking. You could see Daniel Cormier did not like the striking, and that's why that was a 5-rounder the first time, which was just Greco-Roman wrestling. Like, I watched it again as of late, and it is not the funnest fight in the world, and it was just trapping your hands over and over again. John Jones using his elbows every once in a while like he did against Rashad Evans and everybody else. I feel like that's just going to be John Jones elevated. I feel like John Jones is also going to exploit the body shots to Daniel Cormier. We've seen him get hurt, and he's talked about it in fights like, I didn't like those body shots. Keep telling people what hurts. Keep telling me you got a soft body.
Yeah.
John Jones watches tape. I feel like this is ended up going to be a TKO. Ground and pound, round 4. Daniel Cormier walks away and retires from the sport. I love you, DC. Enjoy yourself. Please don't become obese. Diabetes runs in the family. Please be careful. We don't want him to go young. So, how do you feel about this fight?
This is exactly what's going to happen. Everything you said, except... No, pretty much everything you said. I totally agree. I think Jones is going to finish him this time, and the only reason I think he's going to finish him is because it's personal. It's a personal. He's going to outgas tank them.
The dick shit is
everything with ring rust. I agree with ring rust for people that are not used to having eyes on them, who is used to having more eyes on them in this sport than John Jones.
Yeah.
He's camera shy. He isn't scared of the lights. He isn't, so I'm not worried about
His
that
camp
stuff.
and him know how to get him ready for a 5-round fight.
Every time we see John Jones get into the octagon, every time, whatever he does that time, we see in the next year and 2 years, everybody else emulate.
Right, people study him.
Everybody else
I agree.
copies. If he's doing leg kicks, everybody copies leg kicks. If he's
Oblique
throwing
kicks.
inside elbows, everybody's throwing inside elbows. I think John Jones is this next level. He's the one that created this new breed of fighter. He is the one in the forefront, and we all need to see him fight. He's not going to make it easy on DC.
Who next, if not DC, though?
I'll
Like,
tell you
it's
exactly.
like-
This is why it fits in perfect to my narrative.
Please,
Perfect
please,
to my narrative. The winner of Ozdemir, who's the Joker? Manoa.
Oh, really?
Ta-da! That's your fight. They're the 3 and 4 in the division right now.
And then who?
OSP?
And then, exactly.
No, and then he clears out that he fights the winner of them, and then we don't see John Jones for like 6 months, and the next time we see John Jones, he is fighting at heavyweight.
That's his
Put
only
some
other
weight on his
option.
legs,
I agree, and
move
he
up.
clears that out.
He clears that out, but
But
how
there's
exciting is
real-
him versus Stipe? How exciting
Overeem.
is that?
Versus Overeem.
It's so excited
Exactly.
for that. So excited
Exactly.
for Stipe. So excited for
Yep.
Verdum. I want to see those
All
fights.
of it.
So imagine
All
like
of it, all of it.
a John Jones carrying around an extra 40 pounds he's allowed to carry at that weight class?
Easy, because
40 to 60.
he's probably around that 250, 240 mark, which is what Kane and Stipe is 240.
Yeah. I'm excited for that John Jones. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the fight. I think we were saying the Leslie
Leslie
Smith
Smith pick.
underdog pick. I think Brian Ortega is our Leslie Smith underdog. If I
I'm
can't
more
believe
comfortable
he's the
with that.
underdog.
I would agree with that, but Carnero is a son of a bitch. Look at his fights again. Like, he definitely puts the pace to people, and I do feel like Ortega can take a little too much of a shot on the ground, expecting for him to get the submission.
And I think there's money. I think I have a
can
parlay
happen.
this time.
Ooh, please put it together.
Okay. My parlay would be Brian Ortega,
Ooh,
Jason Knight,
ew.
Ozdemir.
Woo.
Throw on Chris Cyborg because it won't cost you anything
Sprinkle
to
on
put her
top.
on. Just put her on. And that would be my 4 parlay. If you
I
wanted
like
to
it.
go crazy for crazy money and wanted to really do it up, you throw Cowboy on that. That would be my crazy parlay pick.
Pick parlay. Damn, that is.
And that isn't a
great-
DraftKings play. That is really just going with some underdogs and sprinkling on a sure thing. You have to figure out who the sure thing is. Just kidding.
Oh,
Chris
man.
Cyborg.
The sure. Well, I feel like John Jones is a sure thing. There was that. Oh, and so is T Wood. Those are all 3 of those are sure things.
I think, yeah, if you can put them all on for better.
I don't think the odds. No, I think that your parlay is a much more of a
Crazy.
value.
Crazy.
Yeah, oh,
Ortega,
yeah.
Jason
But
Knight,
there's-
Ozdemir.
I
Go
feel like-
crazy, throw on Cowboy. But I think.
I think Ozdemir is the tough
I
one there
think
for me too.
when I last looked, Chris Cyborg would only cost you like 7 cents, lose you 7
Uh-huh.
cents by putting her on, and you're not gonna gain anything by having her on there. So, yeah, I think Knight, Ortega, Ozdemir.
I would say for me, I'm gonna go with Ortega, Skelton, or Skelton.
Shelton.
Shelton
like a turtle.
And I would say throw on a T Wood and Christiana Cyborg. I feel like those are
But neither of those are underdogs.
those are just
There's
to
no point in
beef
putting
up the
them on.
parlay
Yeah.
for the other underdogs to come through. I feel like I'm just not picking your straight up parlay because I would pick a lot of the guys that you did.
Yeah, we don't see DC winning that.
I know,
He's a
and I
moderate
don't see
underdog.
Maya winning that as well. And we see both Maya and DC retiring in those fights. So
214, the night of the retirement.
I would say change into the guard, but I think it's more of a retaining. The guard is going to be fixed. The hole in the wall where the White Walkers are getting through is going to be patched up.
I don't think the White Walkers are going to come through the wall.
Ooh, are they coming around where again Tenarius was telling them we come in the
What
back
happens
and
to
get
water
these
when
bitches?
winter comes?
Freezes?
So if there was an ocean close to land, that wouldn't just become more land. Ocean freezes. We see that shit all the time.
Ground freezes.
So why the wall doesn't extend to the ocean?
Agreed.
So I think the White Walkers just walk around. That's where Dragonstone is. So I just think they walk right around the ocean.
Ooh.
I think the ocean's going to be frozen. I don't even think they have to worry about the wall at all.
Do they have flying ice walker things? Do they have any flight?
No, not yet. But
There
there
were
is
horses?
stories from the books that there was ice dragons.
That's what I feel.
Separate dragons
Uh-huh.
that aren't White Walker dragons.
It just
like they're
to me
good
makes
guys.
sense.
I don't know how
makes
to...
they're good guys.
they're good guys.
To
They're
me, what
ice
would make
dragons.
sense would be is if there was fire, there was ice because of the whole yin and yang.
Yeah.
So I could see them having some sort of ice dragons. I don't know for shit because I'm just throwing this shit off the cuff. So this ain't even a spoiler because.
No, I'm just making it up.
Yeah,
I
we're
don't know if
making
they're
this
going to
shit
walk
up.
across the ocean.
These are what if situations. Other than that, this weekend you got to watch 214. It's the card of the year so far. Any one of those main cards would be a main event
I agree.
on its own. On its own.
You have to watch it. The whole card's
Cyborg
good.
Avenger is a little rough. I could see that one maybe wouldn't headline a pay-per-view. That'd be a Fox fight of the night. But everything else would be a
Cyborg's
pay-per-view.
like our Rampage. We just want to see her destroy someone.
Agreed. Can't wait for that as well. There's so many fun ones.
Yes, we're going through a little work right now on our webpage and everything. We get us back on all of the things where your podcasts come through, your SoundClouds and your iTunes and all that jazz. So for all things Lesbo and the Bean, lesboandthebean.com, and follow us on Twitter at Lesbo and the Bean for the latest picks for your DraftKings.
Let me in the house. Lesbo and the Bean!